Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start this evening with the Library Board of Finance Committee meeting. This should be a short, efficient meeting that is a mandatory meeting that happens once a year. So this meeting is beginning at 4:15, and I will determine a quorum. Marvin?
Here.
Alan?
Aye.
Anne?
Here.
Ruth?
Here.
And I'm also here, so we have a quorum. We will start with the election of a Library Board of Finance. And I'm going to just tell you that we have recommendations, but we will open nominations. Our recommendation for president of the Board of Finance, thank you, is Marvin Curtis, with the secretary being Alan Feldbaum. So, but I will open for nominations from the floor. Are there any other nominations?
We need some nominations.
Well,
That's
these,
your recommendation. So we need a nomination.
these were recommendations, so we actually need the nomination.
Are you doing them one at a time or both together?
Let's take our attorney's advice. Can we do them both together?
I didn't hear you.
Okay,
Nominations for Board of Finance, President, Vice President, or President, Secretary, one motion or two?
Well, somebody could make a motion to nominate both of them. It's still a separate vote.
Okay,
for each
Okay.
one.
okay,
I move that Marvin and Alan serve on the Board of Finance as president and secretary.
okay.
I'll
And-
second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any further nominations? Hearing none, I'll close nominations and we will go for a vote. Right now, we have for president of the Board of Finance, Marvin Curtis. I will call for the roll. Does Marvin vote?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Marvin? Thank you. Alan?
Aye.
Terry?
I'm not voting.
Oh, he's not here. He's not here.
I'm here, not voting.
Here not voting. Anne? Ruth? And me. So everybody's in. So what, we're doing the Board of Finance first,
Why is Terry reserving his vote? He's already here participating.
because he can only vote at 2 meetings while he's absent.
In a
He
row,
wants to say,
2 in a row.
Two in a row.
Right.
So
You
you're-
might need him for.
we may need him for the February meeting.
So since we have a quorum.
Keeping my options open.
But you can vote in both meetings.
What if you want
Not back to back according to the rule.
Not remotely.
We'll send you the legal opinion.
That we got from you. Yes. So that's why. Thank you. Okay.
Can you don't laugh.
All right. So Marvin is president of the Board of Finance. Now we will go for the secretary of the Board of Finance. Our slate includes Alan Feldbaum, and I will call for a roll. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. So we have Marvin and Alan serving on our Board of Directors for the finance. Thank you very much, and thank you for your kind service. Okay,
I think we should have a round of applause for our outgoing president of our
Board of
library
Finance.
Library Board of Finance.
Maybe Chris-
oh, so.
And then Marvin, you want to take the meeting from here?
No, he doesn't take the meeting.
You
Oh,
said-
of this
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, you're not-
Okay. Oh, because there's only one more agenda item, and that is the review of investment policy and investment report on Jeanette.
So in summary, there were no additional investments, in the last year, that were done by the prior treasurer and officers. Prior in previously we did CD investments. There were 200,000, 55, and 10,846.33 in 2020 and 2021. And again, there were no investments done during 2022. The grand total of interest from the bank accounts is $38,359.40. The plan of the executive director and the CFO are to look into investments for the 2023 year.
I think even very comfortable investments right now are 4 to 5% for even 11 months. So it's not like the 0.05 that we were getting
Right.
in the last several years.
Can I ask a question? Are we looking at different investment firms, or are we into the same one?
We will actually, and probably, we're gonna investigate Indiana Trust. No, Trust Indiana. Trust Indiana, which is the governmental investment portal for the state of Indiana. Any governmental unit can invest there, and it is extremely fluid. So it complies with all of the laws surrounding investments for the state of Indiana for governmental units. And you can actually get your money back the next day. So it's not like a CD with terms and all of that sort of thing. So it's a really good option. We did it in New Carlisle. There's a lot of libraries that do it, a lot of cities and towns that do it. So that will be our first stop in looking for investment opportunities.
Because I'm sure that with library funds or any government funds, you can't invest in anything where there's a risk. So it has to be
Right. Yep. You're pretty limited. CDs, white papers, bonds.
It's called trust in Indiana.
Yeah.
Sounds like an oxymoron.
That's the exact word I was going to say,
Yeah.
but yes.
It is Trust Indiana, and because locally there's Indiana Trust, right? Yes, it's not that one. It's Trust Indiana, specifically for governmental units. It's a pot.
I'm gonna have to look that up, yes.
And we will bring lots more information
Are
before.
we forbidden from another?
Alan?
So technically, then, will we have to have another one of these meetings then, once you all decide how to invest
No, it just needs approval by the board.
by the board? Okay, cool.
Yes, it'd be a resolution.
Are there any other comments and or questions for the Board of Finance meeting? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Discuss,
Isn't he the president?
he deferred just for this meeting. I have the agenda in front of me. He's so nice.
One item.
Yes,
Two items.
one item, okay. So now, all those in favor? Marvin,
Aye.
Alan, Anne, Ruth, and I also approve. The meeting is adjourned. We have 2 minutes until our next meeting is due to open, if anyone wants to stand up and stretch. Because legally, we must start at the time announced. Okay,
Harry is not participating in this meeting.
right, but he is,
Is he planning to not be here for March too? Is that what's going on?
right, he won't be here January, February, March. So he wants, okay.
So he wants to preserve it for February and March.
Yes,
So make sure that he's listed as not attending this meeting when we do the vote.
okay,
Okay.
I just crossed him off. Yes,
Right, because I thought that in this earlier meeting, you said he was attending.
yes, but
He was
he's not.
present, but he's not. He
Sam's
can't
got
be.
that for minutes.
Yeah, she's got it.
We got
Just
it.
the minutes to show that he
It's the wrong choice of words.
participated.
You are you are observing, not participating.
Am I allowed to even ask questions?
You're in public comment.
Yeah, I think you can comment, yes, but you can't, no, he can comment, but he can't become involved in the deliberation or the vote.
Okay,
Okay, all right, that's what I was trying to figure out, because you had him down as being present and he can't be present.
okay, got it.
Yes, we got it.
Noted.
Noted, and thank you for the clarification.
You know, that Trust Indiana has got some pretty good rates.
Yeah, it does.
The 30-day yield is 4.37%.
Wow, that is real good.
I should invest it now.
I think you have to be governmental.
And actually, there's 7 days even better. It's just 4.39.
Yeah, and it's a large investment pool. So we'll bring more information on that before too long.
With that, I will be opening the board meeting for Monday, January 23rd, 2023. It is 4:25. We are right on time. I will call the meeting to order and determine a quorum. Marvin, Alan,
Aye.
Ann, Ruth,
Aye.
and I also am here. So we have a quorum. The next item for our viewing is the consent agenda. Is there anything in A through E that anyone has any questions about? Anything that you want to bring up, any personnel changes, anything?
There's some in
new?
my report.
Okay, so that will be covered in the director's report. With that, I would entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Ann, Ruth,
Aye.
and I also approve. So the consent agenda is approved. Next, we will move to the director's report.
Okay, so the one grant that it was not listed in the consent agenda because we don't get the money, but Lisa did get the Indiana Author Award, and we'll have Ashley C. Ford to visit our library. Do you know when yet? We don't have a date set yet. So the water infiltration primarily in this building, you saw the report, and almost 20 windows need to be pulled out. And it's literally the most minor of repairs on the inside, just one step that they forgot when they installed the windows. So, yeah, so they'll start that in March, hopefully, the beginning of March, and then we asked them to take out 3 additional windows just to ensure that there's not hidden water damage that we can't see. And if those 3 windows are clear, we won't make them take out any other windows, but I thought it was prudent to insist that they take a sampling of other windows to make sure. I mean, water is just insidious when it gets in your building. So once those windows are complete, we can do some interior repairs to walls and carpets and things like that. There's still an issue with the doors on the 3rd floor terrace. Yeah, they were supposed to put astragals on the outside of those to prevent the water from coming in. You can actually see daylight where the doors meet. The astragals finally arrived. They came in to install them. The installer decided they wouldn't work to fix it and left and recommended another thing, a sweep at the bottom, which of course doesn't address the fact that you can see daylight through the doors. And so I have not heard back again from that person in regards to why they didn't actually, so what's the alternate plan? And it's been months and months of me just saying, what about this? And Rose saying, what about this? When are you fixing doors? So we're still working on it. We're still holding their retainage until the problem is solved, so.
Speaking of retainage, if I can ask here, are the people who didn't do step B for the windows responsible for cleaning up the messes that
Yes.
caused? Okay.
All that cost will come out of their retainage. And the cost of the investigation, those bills went to them as well. So it's the ongoing saga of the windows. We are going to change the format of the minutes. You'll see that going forward. Currently, the minutes contain all of the board packet from this month and the previous month. Going forward, you only see the content of this month's packet, and the minutes will be a more traditional just explanation of what happened in the meeting. So if there's no objection to that, we'll just Sam's looked at some samples from some other places. She's comfortable and ready to move forward with that.
I will miss the 150 pages.
I thought you all might be sad about reducing the length of the board packets. I have found it hard to find where the relevant information is in the board packet, so hopefully this will help. The staff changes of note, Mel Lutz is our new education and programming manager. She's been with the library for 13 years. She's an outstanding programmer and will be an excellent manager, and has already just started off on the right foot. And then 2 other internal hires. Emily Ossenmacher is our new early literacy librarian. You'll recall Kara went out to center. And then Rachel Finch is in a new role within the HR department, which is staff development and volunteer coordinator. So Kara clearly needed additional help with 200 staff members. She's going to make sure that she'll be responsible for our staff in service, onboarding new staff, making sure we're covering those basics of training beyond what needs to happen at the whatever location they land at. That training that all staff need to have in terms of the handbook and all of that sort of thing. So she'll do that. We sponsored the MLK breakfast for the first time this year. We had 16 staff members attend. It was a really great program. The final performer for that event was just phenomenal. And we did have a pretty good turnout for our early literacy event too, which was our, yeah, which is our contribution to the day's events. We moved to the non-floating collection. I don't know if we've discussed that in this meeting at all, but it used to be, well, for many years, wherever a book was returned is where it stayed. Now books will go back to their home location. So it just makes it a little easier to make sure that the collections at branches in particular meet the needs of that specific community, as opposed to the person who drives by and just throws their returns in the box. But that was a huge, I mean, the technical services team did a lot of work in preparation for that. And I don't think the public noticed at all, which is the ideal way to do a massive transition like that. So good job to them. And then you saw the notes from staff on the compensation plan. They're truly grateful. So I wanted to include those for you. A couple of other things of note. I offer these in January to my board members, but the uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement, if you have any financial benefits from any work the library does, you should fill one of these out. For example, if you own the landscaping company that does landscaping at the library, you should fill one of these out. So they're here and available to you if you have a conflict of interest that we should be aware of and your appointing bodies should be aware of.
Stephanie,
Yes.
might suggest that we all fill one out and say none if we don't have any.
Maybe you can bring one next month that just says.
For each of you, that says,
you have
it's not
none.
required to do it if you have none, it's required to do it if you have some.
Right. We have a little issue.
Suggestion, if you ask me.
Good
Pardon?
suggestion, everyone? Okay, so I'll bring them in pre-filled and you can sign them next month. Who's making them for me much? Internal controls.
I think that is a good idea. And other boards that I serve on, we want to attest that we have no conflict.
Yes, and it goes back to your appointing body. Too, so let me just.
Sometimes it makes the newspaper, so it's just better to.
Because they then have, these documents then have to be approved by your appointing body.
So if
So,
we find one that it has to go to our body, they have to sign
Mhm.
it, we can take out.
yes. Yes, so that's where I'm not sure if it's worth the extra paperwork for, say, the county council.
Well, maybe we can just, as opposed to this, just have a sign off saying that we have none, and maybe we can all just sign the piece of paper.
Maybe I only need to send it to the appointing body if they have one.
I think that was the intent of the statute, that you disclose one to your appointing body if you have a conflict.
Mhm.
But the idea of having everybody sign one
and say you don't have a conflict.
Just for our
Pretty good sound idea for. the board.
Just for us.
Okay, all right. We'll do it. We'll get that sorted for next month. We are joining Urban Libraries Council. It's a membership group of libraries who particularly serve in urban areas. They offer a host of member groups. So they have a group of CFOs, they have a group of community engagement people, they have a group of public service people who get together regularly and have conversations. And then they have all sorts of training documents that all of our staff will have access to. So that was in the bill list this month. We are graduating from Apply for All. We're still using their format and going forward, but we no longer have to be a member of that organization to do that work. So that sort of is an even Steven trade there financially. And then I just want to make you aware of Senate Bill 12, and now there's a matching one in the House, and that's the materials harmful to children language that's coming up in the legislature again this year. I'll keep you posted. Indiana Library Federation has people who keep track of that stuff and who are lobbyists. So they'll let us know if there's advocacy work that we need to do. And that's the one that makes it a felony for librarians to provide materials harmful to children without a real clear, obscenity standards, right? So it hasn't made it through in the last 2 years, so I don't know where it will land. I do know SB 12 has gone to the Judicial Committee instead of the Education Committee. Will they hear it? Will they do anything with it? I don't know, but I'll keep you posted if there's anything of note. On the positive side of legislation, there is a bill that will provide Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to every child in the state of Indiana. So if you want to be for something in the legislation, this is a really great thing, just key for early literacy. It's an exciting piece of legislation. The state library will work with either a nonprofit that they create or a nonprofit that exists in the state of Indiana already in order to make that accessible. We do it in St. Joseph County because of the help of the Community Foundation.
I thought we were doing it.
We are, but LaPorte County is not, Marshall County is not, Lake County does, their library foundation just started sponsoring that. So it's really hit or miss in the state. So this legislation would make it accessible to all kids.
Do you know if that would then take place in St. Joseph County?
It would be every kid in the state. So I don't know, but the Community Foundation could funnel their dollars elsewhere.
Yeah, so they would take over that here and the Community Foundation.
I'm sure that's all stuff that needs to be sorted out. I haven't talked with Rose yet. But
That's
I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
Be a really great thing if they could get that through. So that's my report.
Thank you. Any questions, comments for our executive director? Well, things are going well. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the director's report?
so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Marvin?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I also approve. Now our patron engagement report.
Okay, so we had a really strong end of the year. And this is true of Maine, and most of our locations have had a higher visitation, circulation, computer use than December. So we're seeing growth from our previous year. And just to throw out some big exciting numbers, we should have an end of the year report for the next board meeting. But we had almost 2 million checkouts. That's digital and physical. Over 13,000 cardholders signed up. And over 7,000 patrons were re-engaged, which just means that they came back to the library after not being with us for over a year. We had over 585,000 library visits across the system, and we answered 110,000 reference questions.
Wow.
So not a bad year at all. And I think we're really excited to see what 2023 brings.
Excellent.
The 2 million across the system?
Pardon?
The 2 million across the system?
Yep, everywhere.
Was there something special we did this year to help generate library card sign-up?
Well, the main thing is we knew between the opening of Main Library and going fine free that we had an opportunity to put things in front of people in a way. And plus we have the new branding. So I think we just took advantage of those sort of natural opportunities to get people excited. And I mean, going fine free really opened the door to a lot of people to come back and get signed up for a card. And we've also been doing more outreach pushes with the schools, which I think help things along. So I would say the exciting thing about that is it's just growth going forward as opposed to like one thing happened and that's why we saw advances. It's more like the changes that we're making in terms of how we communicate and reach out to the public are showing benefit.
A lot of the questions that I have gotten since the new building opened or the renovated is it being used? People are, they've seen it, they like it, they know it costs money, and sometimes they come in, there aren't many people there, they say, is it being used? And you've got some really great data there. I mean, very positive stuff. Is there any way to get that into the press in any way? Would they care? I would think. I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I can, especially with the fact that it's been about a year since this building has been open. We can put something up there. We will have our annual report, which is the publication that goes out. You all will get a copy and goes out to decision makers and stakeholders. Should be finished probably early March. And that's another opportunity, I think, to talk about, our numerical strides. It just kind of makes our case in strong terms, because looking at what Lisa's team has done over here in terms of how many community groups use this space, how many meeting room hours have there been, and the numbers are really impressive. And just, again, it's room for growth, but seeing what we've been able to do in a year. So I think those are all opportunities to make sure that the public and also, news media are aware of what's going on. That's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
I also think a Michiana point of view might be in order.
Yeah. Who knows?
Do I have a motion to approve lost my place in line, my patron engagement report?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Marvin?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I also approve. Financial report, Jeanette?
What I did was, did some year-end, financial info highlights. Hopefully we'll be able to get this a little bit more robust as we go, month by month, but, some revenue highlights, the local property taxes of 6.19 million, were received in December, for the general fund. The local income tax, vehicle and commercial vehicle excise tax of 188,000 was, received. We also, if you remember that we talked about the solar project for TUT, and that part of that we paid upfront, and then we were to get a reimbursement. And so we did receive that reimbursement of $21,000. And for the annual appeal that Lisa conducts, we received $16,000. And of that, I'm sure there will still be continued money coming in from that, but that's what we received as of the end of December. We still have about $287,000 for the construction balance. Stephanie talked a little bit about some of those pieces that are still open. So, but in general, we're almost done. Hopefully soon we'll be done looking at construction bills. So hopefully that'll be done soon. Our overall cash balance, December 31st, $29 million. And at the end of the time that this document was published, $28 million. We successfully closed the books. My first time doing it at the library, and we successfully closed it. And I am working to get some other data and analysis to be able to show as we go forward.
Thank you. Questions for Jeanette? Hearing none, I call for a motion. to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I also approve. We have approval of the financial report.
You know, one thing we may want to consider next month is getting a table that would take all five of our staff people have got computers and they're all trying to balance them on it. You know, I don't know if there's a little table, you may want to consider putting one.
I see Sam writing a note over here.
Good idea.
I just noticed that it's kind of.
It's a balancing act, but it doesn't fly off.
What you need now is also a cup of coffee and a cookie. Thank you, thank you. To the best of my knowledge, there is no unfinished business. We move into new business, which is my favorite part for especially tonight, is the nomination and election of officers for the library board for 2023. At this point, we have several recommendations, but we'll still open it for nominations. For President, Marvin Curtis, Vice President Ruth Warren, and Secretary Alan Feldbaum. Those are the recommendations, but we will open nominations right now. Do I hear nominations?
I nominate Marvin for president.
Okay, you can go through all of them if you'd like.
I nominate Ruth Warren for vice president. Well, somebody else should do it.
Well, they're all named, so. So, ladies, okay,
I nominate Alan Feldbaum for secretary.
Depending on when.
okay. Those are the nominations. Any other nominations from the board? Hearing none, I will close nominations and we will go for a vote for each of the positions. For President Marvin Curtis, I will call for a vote. Marvin?
Aye.
Thank you. Alan?
Aye.
Anne?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I also approve. Second, Vice President Ruth Warren. Any other nominations? Oh, we close nominations. Marvin?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And Anne?
Aye.
And I also approve. And for Secretary, we have Alan Feldbaum, Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I also approve.
Do we have to annually nominate treasurer?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay, for treasurer,
I
the
move,
recommendation would be, okay, go ahead.
I move that we, elect, Anjanette Danslip as the library treasurer for the year.
I second.
The floor is open for nominations. Any other nominations? Hearing none, I will call for the vote. Marvin,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
Anne,
Aye.
Ruth,
Aye.
and I also approve. Thank you and congratulations to all new members.
And I want to thank Christine for being the president for the last 2 years. It's been a lot of work the last 2 years.
My joy. I thank you, but I am more than happy to hand the gavel over to Marvin.
Thank you, Christina. I second your leadership this last 2 years. So
My
good
pleasure.
job and got a lot of things done. I
Mhm.
enjoyed it and I enjoyed it.
Don't forget the pandemic, just thrown in there too. Yeah. Okay,
We all try to forget that.
yeah. Yes.
Are we done? Are we done?
Okay. Our first order of business right now will be the annual resolution on the facsimile.
Oh, no.
Mr.
First you have to appoint.
Cheat sheet.
Okay. Appointments for the committees, so I'm going to appoint as the finance chair, Terry Mansberger as the chair, and Christina as the member.
Thank you.
Okay. The Human Resources Committee will be Cole Garcia. He's not here today.
Our new board member.
And Ann, as the board member. For the Public Service Committee, Alan Philpott will be the chair, and Ruth Warren will be the member. You guys got work to do. Public service.
Yes,
That's
That's it.
that. Okay. For the, now for the annual resolution. Anjanette?
Yes, so some of these you may have seen before. So we are going through the facsimile signature, investment of funds and surety bond for treasurer resolution. Do I need to read the whole resolution?
No,
Okay, thank you. In general, just authorize that we can use a facsimile stamp, that the executive director and or chief public service officer can use the treasurer / CFO's stamp when they are unavailable. And that the treasurer and executive director are authorized to periodically invest, and that we will have a surety bond available for those for the treasurer.
I move to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that we approve the annual resolution for facsimile signature. All in favor?
I think that we,
Oh, yeah, let's get that one. Ah, jeez. I know. Christine?
yeah, A.
Ann?
Aye.
Ellen?
Aye.
And Ruth?
Aye.
I vote aye. Well done. Anjanette, you're next.
That's all me today.
Is it electronic funds transfer?
Pay bills with
I have
prior.
paid bills with prior approval. You okay to go down?
I'm sorry,
Okay, that's what's on my list.
pay bills, I'm sorry.
So this resolution is to allow, although we do a bill list, there are times that some bills must be paid prior to the bill list, but they are added so that you can then approve them at the board meeting. This is a list of those items that we can pay prior to the board meeting, and then have your approval. So
Is this new? I don't remember seeing.
This is one, D and E, we are certain there's a policy somewhere.
But no, I really like the idea that we're doing it. I'm glad to see it.
And it probably was passed, I mean, this one that you pass and then it is forever thus.
I don't remember seeing it, but I was always wondering how we would.
Yes, so since we couldn't find one, we thought it was good to do this one and the next one, just to make sure that we are on the same page in what we're paying in between board meetings and what we're using electronic funds transfer for.
Will this be done every year?
No,
It's new.
This is done.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have it noted that it's done.
It's done, okay.
So we won't have to
Yes.
do it again.
but with her being new and me being new and a number of retirements in the business office, the digging that we would have to do to find the originals is on paper and significant. So we just thought we'd start fresh.
That's good to me.
There was one.
I'm sure there was.
We-
I'm positive there
We're
was,
pretty
yeah,
sure there was.
for both of these.
I move we approve the resolution to pay bills in advance of the library board allowance as set forth in this resolution is before us.
A second.
And it's been moved and second that we do the resolution to pay bills with prior approval. I will call for a vote. Christine?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
I'm not sure either. Alan?
Aye.
And Ruth?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All passed. Thank you. Now for the electronic funds transfer.
So this resolution is to allow, which we already do. I'm sure at some point it was signed already, but to ensure that that payroll and PERF, which is our retirement funds, can be paid electronically, and any other electronic payments, we do pay things ACH. as much as possible to ensure that, we can do, those transactions electronically.
I move we adopt the resolution authorizing electronic funds transfer, including payroll for.
Have a second.
Okay.
It's been moved and seconded that we do the resolution for electronic funds transfer. I'll call for the vote. Christine?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Tim, Alan?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Passed. And.
Mr. President,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a question.
Vice President.
So I'm curious about how these things are organized. In other words, to save the next director and CFO from having to go look for these things. Is this administrative guidelines? Is this board policy? Where does this fall so that it can be found again?
Sure, so Rachel started using Google Drive to organize all of the board packets. They're all keyword searchable. And then we'll continue to do that going forward. And then Sam is doing a project this year to scan all of our previous board minutes, and she'll pull out all of the resolutions and policies. We have a naming convention so that there will be sorted by year and month so that we can, going forward, find any policies and resolutions by keyword search.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing
Good
that up,
question.
because even when we were looking at last year's
Yes.
nominations, we had to find the correct board meeting and the correct date, and the board meeting minutes had 150 pages.
Mhm.
So now it'll be more easily sortable,
Yes.
so that's great.
Yeah, so we have the last, Rachel's been here, what, 5 or 6 years? So we have those all really easy for the most part. I mean, keyword searching PDFs can be a little bit tricky, but by and large, that's all easy to find. And so by the time Sam is done, all the resolutions will be in one spot, all the policies will be in another spot, and they'll all be findable.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Our next order of business is a resolution for cancellation of old outstanding checks.
Now, this is a, resolution that does have to be signed every year. So this is not an annual. So this is basically every 2 years back, whatever checks are still outstanding, they can then be basically written off the books. So interestingly, they're all petty cash. Usually there are some for, the general fund, but because that was COVID year, there are none, because they were usually they're individuals that do that, so there wasn't as much of that going on at that point. So these are the only, outstanding, warrants or checks from 2 years ago.
You say petty cash. Other word. Are these staff members?
So we do have,
Are these people that,
sometimes there are, it is that, and sometimes it is refunds for other reasons. So they did faxes or something at that point in time, and they just write a check back. So that's usually what the petty cash is. It's not really, it may not necessarily be cash, it's just out of the petty cash account.
is such large amount?
I was actually surprised because we would regularly have 5 at a small library. And so to have so few for this large of a library was surprising to me, but
COVID.
COVID.
Oh,
2021, there's quite a few.
okay.
So that's next year.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Oh. And then this thing. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution for the cancellation of old outstanding checks. I will call for the vote. Christine?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Alan?
Aye.
Ruth?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Approved. Okay, Anjanette, you're off the hook for a while.
Made it.
St. Joseph Coffee Company staff tips. Lisa?
Lisa.
Lisa.
Lisa, please.
I'm proposing that we allow our St. Joe Coffee Co. staff to accept tips from customers. And this is so we can attract and retain staff. So other local coffee shops allow their baristas to accept tips. So doing that will keep us aligned with the practices of comparative workplaces. And we reviewed the legal aspects of it, and we find it does not violate any legal codes. And we are creating internal controls to ensure that the tips are distributed fairly and then reported accurately. So we'll keep a log of the tips received daily, and then we'll also record how much each barista or cafe staff member will receive so that it's reflected in their W-2s.
Question.
I do have a question, which is interesting. So on days where there's more than one barista, is it a shared tip box or?
Yeah, so the way we were talking about it, we would record how many hours that they worked in the day, and that's how it would be split. So it would be kind of like a percentage. And then the manager would never take tips unless they were like covering a full day. There's actually a rule that they can't be doing more than 20% management or supervisory duties if they are going to take tips. So it will mostly be baristas, but sometimes managers, and we will calculate that by the hours of their shift.
Are there any plans to expand the hours, the coffee shop?
Really gotta talk about that.
We need to,
You're-
baristas are harder to keep and maintain, so once we've got that solid, we could have that discussion.
Yeah.
It's too like.
Yeah.
I eat coffee at 4.
Oh, I can't sleep if I have coffee at 4, but understandable, yes. So the only expansion we've done this year is for special events.
Cool. Do I have a motion to approve? So moved.
Second.
And a motion to approve in a second. I will call for the vote. I started with this time.
Aye.
Yeah, Alan? Aye. Ann?
Aye.
Christine?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Done. And now for the employee handbook, and Stephanie? let us
Yes,
do the
so-
employee handbook.
Kara could not be here tonight, so I told her that I could cover it. So we're just gonna hit a couple of highlights. We did not bring forward, you have the full text. We did some, just reorganizing of some things, minor changes. We didn't bring any of that forward, but we thought you should know about the major ones. So we have done bear with me. So the background policy, previously it said that we would background check all of our volunteers, but that's not what we've done in practice. So we've just clarified that if they have access to one-on-one with a kid or a vulnerable adult, in those situations, we'll background check volunteers. We've been doing pre-employment drug screening for a long time, but we haven't had a policy in the handbook. So that's covered here as we practice those drug screenings now. We added temporary employees as a classification, so we can hire summer interns without worrying about benefits and the number of hours they work, things of that sort. We added a second language differential, so currently we pay that $1 an hour for fluency in Spanish and one other language. I think any language we would probably do, and an approved second language. And we're adding American Sign Language to that. There was a sort of complicated way in which employees could also volunteer for the library. And we've eliminated that because that does get into some Fair Labor Standards Act confusions. So if you work for us and you're going to work an event, we're going to pay you for it. Vacation time, there was a confusing bit about MLS librarians and their amount, and then exempt people. Now all librarians are exempt, so we've just merged those two. Sick time, currently part-time employees have no sick time at all, so we've sort of held on to our COVID sick pay. That's currently into effect, but we would end that and provide sick time for all of our part-time employees. And all sick time would now get paid out, but not paid out. It doesn't get paid out, but it would get dumped in January 1st or following this, following this meeting, and then July 1st. And if you start in between, it's prorated. And then those amounts are in there. We added the ALA Bill of Rights and Code of Ethics as appropriate conduct for employees. And then one of my concerns coming in is, of course, the prevention of child abuse and doing what we can to ensure that we protect kids while they're in our spaces. So we added this conduct with minors and vulnerable adults policy that outlines, and again, I don't think any of our staff members are going to look at this and be like, oh, what? No, this is stuff we already do, but I just think it's good to be really clear that you may not be in a one-on-one non-visibility situation with a minor or a vulnerable adult, and that you are required to report to HR if there is inappropriate behavior going on in the library between staff and children or vulnerable adults. So that's been added in here. Including this section on mandatory reporting. All adults in the state of Indiana are mandated reporters for child abuse and neglect. That's spelled out here. And we'll do training on all of this stuff too. And then the next two conduct sections are really sexual harassment prevention. So if you, well, social media twofold, right? So one is you can't start a TikTok account and say it's an SJCPL account unless communications okays it. So you can't represent yourself as a library unless our people know. But the other piece of it is that managers should not initiate those social contacts with staff that are non-managers. So you can't go on Facebook and say, will you be my friend, to somebody who is below you in the hierarchy of the organization. If they request that sort of social relationship with you, that's acceptable. Although I personally would discourage that anyway. And then the same is true for personal relationships. Managers are prohibited now in writing from having a romantic or intimate relationship with non-managers, regardless of whether or not they're in your department. And all of that speaks to the power differential and prevents, I think, sexual harassment cases and just protects our staff. And again, these are not coming out of any situations that have arisen, but I like to have policies in place before things happen and to prevent things from happening. So that's the reason behind these personal relationships in the workplace, social media policy, and minors and vulnerable children. Employment of family members. Kara wanted to add the regular employment piece of it, so that for those internship opportunities, the fact that you have a family member working in the organization somewhere doesn't prevent you from having an internship. We would still not make that person a direct report, but we wanted to do that. And then full-time employees were guaranteed to receive pay if they were scheduled to work, say, during a blizzard. And then the pay for the part-time employees was up to the director at their discretion. I would like to just not have to make that decision on a case-by-case basis and just say, if you were scheduled and we decided to close, you're still going to get paid for that shift. If we don't decide to close and you call off because you think you can't drive, and that's your decision to make, and etc. But if we make the call, we're going to pay you for your scheduled shift. And then finally, not finally, there's two on dress code. We're going to be permitting jeans going forward under these very specific guidelines, in that if you wear jeans to work, you have to look nice. It's either an SJCPL t-shirt or crew neck, or blouse, button-down shirts, blazers, sweaters. And I will be making it clear that my expectation is that I don't want to regret letting them go ahead and go to jeans every day. Currently, it's Fridays and Saturdays for denim. And also, if you are the librarian in charge or the manager for the day, you can't wear the jeans with just the SJCPL t-shirt. If you're gonna wear jeans, you have to dress it up so that if people have a question or concern that needs to sort of go up a level, you're still appearing as though you're a person in charge. And then we spell out like joggers, athletic pants, not acceptable wear. Per retirement bonus, we do give a bonus for longtime members. Now we're requiring if you're gonna get that perf bonus, you have to give us 4 weeks of notice before you get that bonus. So that we can plan for your departure. Any questions?
I have a couple of issues, not issues, questions really related to the drug testing policies. A while back, I start a lot of sentences that way, don't I? We had gone from urine testing to the hair test. Clipped of hair, it was less, I guess, intrusive, and you could go back some period and see if we had a problem 6 months ago, or we had one guy with really long hair. I think we could go back 2 or 3 years, but we didn't do that. We defined it. Is that out of favor at this point? It worked out well 20 years ago. Yeah.
What we currently do is a urine test.
Yes, but I'm asking if there had been any consideration to changing that for the couple of reasons I mentioned. I'll just throw it out there.
We have not considered an alternate method. This seems to be effective in meeting our goals in terms of making sure we don't have, I mean, if people see drug screening, they usually don't show up to it. Right, and then we don't move forward with employment. So it's essentially a deterrent. If you're an active drug user, you don't complete the process.
Well, that would apply in either case, but I'll move on. The second thing, we had a policy that if we had an injury, a reportable, in our case, OSHA reportable injury, that person or the people involved were drug tested. For the obvious reason that if we found out they got hurt and they were not in control of themselves, it took a lot of heat off us. Is that something that might be considered? And I'm just passing it on again.
Yes, and
I think it's done for people who drive the vehicle.
yes, so we have a couple of people who drive a library vehicle. So if there were a question in that case, I would, let me take that one under advisement. I don't have enough information to respond.
Okay, I just, it was good for us. It may not apply there nearly as much. We were in an industrial environment, obviously, and someone loses a finger. Now you start to wonder where the lawsuits are going to come in. And so it's self-explanatory why.
Sure, and Kara comes from a manufacturing background, so.
But she's not there today, yeah, okay.
12.5.
It's already in there.
Yeah, is reasonable cause testing.
Wow, I
Yes.
thought I read all this. Where was it?
It's in the actual handbook in another section.
Page 36, 12.53.
It's not in the this is the pre-employment drug screening. I thought I saw it, but I couldn't see it in this right
It's
here.
called
So,
reasonable cause testing.
yes, got it covered.
All right.
Any other questions for Stetson?
I do. So one of my most favorite things to do is read employee handbooks.
This one was very good, wasn't it?
Yes,
It was.
yes, I want to.
All 58
compliment you
pages.
on your thoroughness. I do have a couple of questions. I'm curious about employment of family members, because South Bend is, kind of a small town, and often people work for the same entity. So I'm curious about why you're prohibiting family members from working in the library.
So that's not a change to policy. That's been a long-standing policy. I find that we did have some discussion about this when this was completed or during the process of evaluating this. It doesn't always get sticky, but sometimes it gets sticky when you hire people who are related to each other, especially if you have performance issues with one of those people. So that's one reason. And it
I was
just
just
avoids
thinking
that.
in a tight labor market, this is kind of working against us. And if they don't work in the same department or one doesn't supervise the other, I don't know, it's just a question. So.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons. The other reason is if you have a family emergency, you always have two people out instead of one person out. Those are a couple reasons, but I will bring your notes to Kara.
Okay. The other thing is, you know, dress code is always a thing. This is so picky and I'm embarrassed to bring that, but you're not letting women wear sandals.
Closed-toed shoes for everybody. And if you think about carts and books, I have had staff run over their toes with carts.
Okay.
It's a health department standard too. If you work anywhere in or around food or anything, you have to have clothes.
So it's just a safety.
Workers' compensation.
Yeah, it's a safety measure. I know. I did.
Be watching, you all better not be wearing.
They're not, they don't, because I'll tell you what.
It's a tough shop.
Sarah Hill and I, over the summer, were wearing the same shoes. I said it was the only closed toe pair of sandals at DSW this year, right? And she said, yes, it was. And we had the same pair of closed toe shoes. So,
First time you drop a book pointed this way on a shoe that is closed, I'm so thankful you don't have on a pair of sandals.
That's
Could
all
go
I
to
have.
could go to steel-toed shoes. That'd be popular.
You're not going there.
Thanks to it.
oh, wait,
Okay.
sure.
I was just curious, so the volunteers that potentially are working one-on-one with children, how is that monitored? I'm gonna say police, but how does that fit in with the policies with the staff who may be working one-on-one with the child?
So we don't currently have volunteers working one-on-one with kids. So
Okay, well, there was something about if they were working one-on-one, they would have to have a background.
they would have to have a background check.
Okay.
I would also want to make sure that they're trained on our policy with minors and vulnerable adults, that they would know that they're a mandated reporter, because sometimes when you work one-on-one with kids, they share information with you. So should we implement that sort of a volunteer program, we would want to make sure all of those things are in place.
Would
for
there
them.
be other people around? They're not like in a closed room, right?
I wouldn't. Not, certainly not without a window,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I move to approve.
Motion on the floor. Second?
Second.
Ruth, second. All in favor? I will call the roll. I'll start with Ruth.
Hi.
Eric?
I'm Alan.
Alan.
Sorry, Joe. We both have.
I told you to forget me.
And I can help it right. Steve?
Aye.
That was approved.
Thank you.
I will say to you, Stephanie, that your policies are very much in line with our new policy. The university, they're very specific.
I think when it comes to some of those things, you need to be, before you have a problem.
You have to do all that kind of stuff.
I know those of us who've been around a while, when I told somebody that our policy and personnel policy was 58 pages long, they just laughed. Because it used to be not so long, but with all the legal things, yes.
Well done.
Well done, thank
And
you.
to Kara, did a lot of work on this
Any
too.
other business for board? Do
No.
you have any visitors today? Welcome. Okay. Student education item, Ellen Anderson will present on local and family history. But up to the subject.
I will tell you, I had my while she gets ready, my certification is ended this year, and I needed a couple of more technology learning education units, which won't be required next year, but it's fine. And so I did take some of Ellen's genealogy courses that she did for staff, and those qualified. They got me a couple, I think I got 2 TLEs for her. So she's a very good presenter. As
Well, it is.
I'm Ellen Anderson. I'm a local and family history librarian here on the 3rd floor of Main Library. And local and family history department has a lot of unique resources to offer the library system that are unique among all of our locations. For example, we have clipping files of newspaper clippings, digitization equipment, city directories, high school yearbooks, microfilm, archival collections, rare and fragile books, and maps. Unfortunately, all those items are only here in one location, and it's hard to disseminate them across our system. And one of the ways that we help do that and share all of these unique resources with our patrons, make them more discoverable and accessible to people interested in South Bend's history who are far-flung, is through our digital collections, Michiana Memory. Our digital collections consist of a number of thematic collections where we compile scans of materials from our collection, materials that are donated to us, materials from partner organizations, and even from private individuals who offer to loan materials to us. Among all of our collections, our most popular include, based on our views in 2022, we had over 113,000 page views on our collections in 2022. And our collection consists of over 50,000 pages and items. Our most popular collections included our maps and atlases, our South Bend Tribune photographs, which we produced with an LSTA grant in 2020 and 2021, our high school yearbook collection, our historic newspapers, Civil Rights and African American Heritage Collection, which was produced with an LSTA grant in partnership with IUSB in 2014, and local history collection. Just touching on the South Bend Tribune photograph collection, it's been a while since I've been able to share our progress on that LSTA grant. We released our collection in the fall of 2021. The collection consists of 10,000 photographs that we received a grant, an LSTA grant to digitize, that were donated by the South Bend Tribune when they were downsizing out of their downtown building. They donated their collection of negatives and newspaper clippings to us, which we estimate to consist of about 1 million items. And of that, we chose 10,000 to digitize. And with the additions of some in-house scans, that collection now is over 12,000 images. And that material covers South Bend's history from 1950 to 1990. And we're really proud to be able to share that collection with our community. It's been one of the most interested collections that's received the most interest from our patrons. And unfortunately, one of the things that's difficult with our Michiana Memory collection is we know it's getting a lot of use and a lot of interest, but it's sometimes hard to tell what kind of impact it's having on our patrons because they're using it remotely and we don't get to hear the stories about what they're doing with it. Although sometimes we are fortunate enough to hear from patrons that come in, or we're able to be the ones to guide them to those resources. For example, Dr. Curtis came in, we were helping him do some research on Rosemary Sanders, yes, for the South Bend Symphony's history. Another example of this is that we had a patron come in recently and was looking for information on a historical company in South Bend that produced outboard motors for writing an article for his Antique Outboard Motor Club newsletter. And so he's come in a few times to help locate images for his article.
Pause just 1 minute. An antique outboard motor club.
I didn't know such a thing existed until he came to share this with us. I didn't even know a company in South Bend produced motors like that. So we helped him locate images of an outboard motor that the company produced and of the founder. And he was absolutely thrilled to find the pictures and was tickled that the motor is upside down in this picture. And he that in the newsletter article because he said everyone's going to look at it and know that it was upside down, and it was just going to be like an inside joke to everyone reading it. So that was one example. But sometimes it works the other way around, and the things that our patrons come to ask us about and do in our department drive our addition of content to Michiana Memory. So it works both ways. For example, in the last week or two, we've been communicating with a patron in Green Township who was asking about an old one-room schoolhouse in Green Township. And we come to find out that she lives in this building. And we weren't able to find a lot of materials in our collection, but I located a VHS tape in our collection that had a documentary of 36 minutes produced by the Green Township Lions Club in 1996 about the history of one-room schoolhouses in Green Township. And within an hour, I was able to get permission from the Lions Club to digitize the tape and make it available on Michiana Memory and send it to the patrons so she could view it. So we're really happy that we have this digital collections that we can share and that we have this back and forth relationship where we can drive content and share that content with our community.
So you mentioned that the South Bend Tribune photo collection covers through the 1990s, I think you said.
Mhm.
So is there a possibility, or has there been any discussion with the folks that own it now about giving us current photos or the photos between, during the 30 years since then, or the 25, 30 years since then?
There hasn't been any discussion to that effect. I know the leadership at the Tribune has changed a couple times since then, and the old leadership was really a proponent of getting this collection into an archival
Because they were
institution.
local.
And the other issue with that is that the collection exists in a very limited space because they switched film types in 1950 we believe that the reason the collection starts in 1950 is that that's when they switched from nitrate to acetate film. And that the collection ends in 1999 because that's when they switched to digital. And digital is a little harder for us. We don't have quite the same infrastructure for long-term digital preservation for large groups of materials like that as we do for physical materials. But it would be interesting if we were able to get a hold of some of those materials.
This time.
Well, this is interesting because I don't know if it was a photograph or not, but I know that at one point I read about South Bend Watch Company that made pocket watches. And there's a picture of their company. So if you just look up South Bend Watch Company, and I thought that looks so familiar. I found out it is now where IUSB is. So if you see the picture, you can see the river in the background with the railroad track. But yes, it's fun to find that because they made very expensive pocket watches.
Another little aside, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Well, just let me finish my sentence.
Yes.
They never transitioned to wristwatches, so that's why they went out of business.
Interesting.
But okay, sorry, Terry.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Aside to your outboard motor story, I'm pretty sure in the 50s that Johnson then merged with Evinrude, and that may be a name more
That's
familiar.
true, yep.
And I don't even know if either one of them exists now. But
I believe there's some legacy of the company still producing. I did get some of that story from the patrons.
And in terms of digital access to the South Bend Tribune, how far back does that go? Because I know you can get our current issues.
Yes, so here at the library, digital access to the South Bend Tribune is a little tricky. There is text-only access to articles printed between 1992 and 2018. In 2019, they switched to like a full-page scan daily, and that is ongoing in our Newsbank database. But other than that, we do not have historical digital access to the South Bend Tribune, unfortunately. There are some, we've tried to pursue it. There are some contract and licensing restrictions.
Sure.
Newsbank holds the contract and they want us to buy the full run of the digitized images, which they've already completed scanning. They have it, but they want us to buy it outright. And they've quoted me $1 and $2 million for this, which is absurd. So we haven't pursued that. I know ProQuest has individual subscription licensing through their newspapers.com subscription, but not available to institutional subscription. So
Sure, but there's a certain amount of access digitally
We do have
to
some.
that between 1990 and the current day.
but we have it online.
I want to thank you for the yearbooks. My husband came in and looked at the Washington High School yearbook when he had dark hair. I was very excited to see it.
They're front and center in our department for a reason, because it is one of the best ways to get like an entree into our department for people who don't know much about local history research.
I would say Ellen's been helpful. Our stuff on Roseberry, I went to the yearbook of 1939 at Riley High School, and all the pictures were there. And we were able to digitize them from 304.
Mhm.
Do that, but the history could be found in the newspaper, microfilm. But I have been able to find the articles and stuff, so it's really, I've been through a lot.
Yeah, and that staff, I mean, they are local history geeks. If you want to find something out, they'd love to help you find it.
And if I can't find it, they'll call me back
Mhm.
and say we can't find it.
Yeah.
But they will look for it, so, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alan.
Anytime.
Our next library board meeting will be February 27th at 4:15 in this room. And I'll typically get a motion for adjournment.
Right, before you do that, I'd like to give a couple of shout outs.
Okay.
So I'm on the art board and Chad Bramsky,
Rice-ski,
Right,
rice-ski.
she's not from Crumbstown, obviously.
served as a juror for the Scholastic Art Awards in the digital art category, so I'm really grateful that he did that. And then I got a second party compliment for your presentation at North Liberty, so I thought I would pass that on.
Thank you. I did a presentation to the North Liberty Chamber of Commerce at their annual meeting.
You haven't done one for Liberty yet, have you?
No, happy to do it anytime they invite.
I'll have to pass it along.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I've got one in my pocket now.
Trust me. I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So I will call the roll. Christine?
Aye.
Bruce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay.
He's here, he's there.
Aye. Ruth? I vote aye. Meeting is adjourned. We'll see you guys next month.
Thank you.